The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel welcomes you to this edition of the Mayor's and Supervisors Weekly Update, brought to you by...
Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard.
The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history.
Hey, welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Mayor's and Supervisors Update. I'm Chris Carosa, publisher of the Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel. And each week we bring you the goings-on in the towns and villages we cover. This week we'll start with Rick Milne in the village of Honeoye Falls. Rick, what's going on in Honeoye Falls?
Well, just a couple of things today, Chris. I think everyone is, of course, as we're seeing this on Sunday, everyone's getting ready for the big celebration on Monday. So we hope everybody has a great St. Patrick's Day and celebrates safely and just make sure there's designated drivers, etc. But be safe out there. I wanted to bring up something that a lot of us have been talking about over the last couple of weeks again, and many of our local municipalities have elections coming up this coming week. Tuesday, the 18th, Village of Honeoye Falls, at the Honeoye Falls Village office from noon to 9 p.m. are the village elections. And there's a lot of village elections around this time of year. We're lucky and blessed to live in a nation that we're able to vote. And although we're not always happy with vote turnouts, right? And we're not, we always have questions, does our vote really count? But I've always been one of those to say, if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain. Whether the vote is contested or whether it's not contested, they're all very important. So I'm just reminding people that many of our municipalities have elections this coming Tuesday, March 18th in Honeoye Falls at the village office. It will be from 12 o'clock noon to 9 o'clock p.m. We're also going to have the new, as I talked last week, the new Servomatic or Servomaster election booths, if you will, the new machines. So this will also be a nice opportunity for local people to come in and try out the machine, see how it works, and really help them be prepared for the upcoming elections that are also, the November elections are always a little bit larger. Lot of more opportunities to vote on different things. So get out, vote in your local elections. It really is important. We've been working on the annual village budget. I think I mentioned last week, but last Saturday we did have another budget workshop. We do believe we have an approved budget to present to our residents. There will be a 0% tax rate increase to the Village of Honeoye Falls residents in our village budget, so we're very happy about that. We do anticipate our sewer rental rates, which is a different charge. That's going to go up $10. That has not been addressed in at least 7 years, or 5 years at least, and I believe it was 7 years prior to that from another increase. But we know we have a huge wastewater treatment plant project coming up. But at the same time, we have storm sewer and sewer lines that are, pushing close to 100 years old in many of our areas, and we have to be able to upgrade some of those lines. So we anticipate that sewer rental rate to go up $10. Again, that will all be based upon a public hearing that will take place on April 7th. That is the date of our annual meeting and our budget public hearing that will begin. The public hearing will begin at 6:30 p.m. and that's in the Sentinel, and that will be continued to be advertised. And then after the budget vote is done, we go right into our annual meeting where we make our appointments, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be on April 7th. But we do believe we have a good village budget to propose for the upcoming village budget year. And then I just, also want to say that we're really lucky. a lot of people, believe it or not, don't know they have a town and a village if they happen to have one. We certainly have in Monroe County, some 19 towns and 10 villages. So not every town has a village, but sometimes it's kind of amazing that people don't know they have a village government and a town government in some of their locations. And sometimes those relationships between towns and villages, because they do things a little bit differently, um, are not always really smooth. And I just wanted to mention, we're really lucky here in Honeoye Falls in the town of Mendon to have a great working relationship between the town and the village. And as I said, we do things differently sometimes, but we always talk, we always communicate. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting this week between a couple of the town representatives, the supervisor and deputy supervisor, and myself and my village clerk to talk about emergency services and our upcoming budgets and our challenges. And we all know emergency services today are really tough because they're changing a lot. Costs are going up dramatically. But the village of Honeoye Falls and town of Mendon are coming together. We sit down. We had a meeting that was about 2.5 hours this week, which was absolutely incredible. Just great dialogue. So, I want to thank the town of Mendon for that, but also just, note the importance of working together. And there's times that we can work with Lima or Rush or even Henrietta, whatever. It's important that we all communicate and we're all trying to get to the same point, right? We're trying to not only do what's right for our individual municipalities, but those who were part of other communities as well. So we're real lucky in Honeoye Falls to be working with Mendon, and I appreciate that relationship. And that's all I've got. We're looking forward to our our vote on Tuesday. Please get out and vote, and then be looking for the village budget vote on April 7th as well. Thanks very much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick. And hopefully this weekly endeavor is one of those tools of communications you guys use just to keep up on each other.
Absolutely.
Mike, over to you and what's going on in Lima?
Hello, Chris. Thanks for having us again. All kinds of things going on. So, yes, we also have village elections here on the 18th. They're at the town hall from noon until 9. We hope that all the village residents turn out to vote. We were notified this past week that we now have a vacancy in the highway department. We'll be posting the job soon. So if you are interested, you can certainly give the highway superintendent a call or watch for the job posting. The Daughters of the American Revolution have paid for a brand new Ska Haza Ga'o historical marker to be placed instead of where the current one is, sort of toward the top of the hill on 5 and 20 as you're headed west there out of Lima on the left. It's going to be down in the pocket park there in front of the post office. The reason for the replacement, of course, is that the road salt has killed the sign that is there, and there just wasn't any saving it. So, but the brand new one is here leaning against my desk at the town hall, and that'll be placed this spring, and it'll look fantastic. I did get to go to Ryan Corbett's welcome home ceremony this past Saturday down in Dansville. If you remember, Mr. Corbett was held by the Taliban as a prisoner for almost 900 days, and he was mistreated and abused and made it through. It was very interesting to hear him talk about, how he kept himself grounded and the things he had to endure and all that. But it took a huge amount of effort to bring him home. And so the Biden administration, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, and then Congresswoman Tenney and the Trump administration all had to play a part to get him out of there. And finally, back with his family, and it was very good to see. We are having trees removed here in the town of Lima on the north side of the parking lot that is directly behind Town Hall, on the north side of the chain link fence that used to be the tennis court chain link fence. There will be some trees taken out, along with some trees that are in the town-owned cemetery on College Street. Some of the trees over time have gained a collection of metal. So fences have, grown into them, spikes, screw eyes from people's clotheslines, etc. Just a reminder, if you're ever thinking of trying to get any money for trees, do not let the metal grow into the trees. It makes them completely useless. And so they just get removed and that section gets tossed. I expect that the tree removal will have started by the time you actually see this on YouTube. The combined town and village cleanup days have been set for May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. You can get a permit from the town clerk, and you can bring your one pickup truck load of items to get rid of. We are also accepting electronics. Same as the past few years. This is open to any resident of the town of Lima. And yes, that does include the village of Lima. So it's all a combined event, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, just in the mornings over at the town garage. And again, come to the town clerk to get your permit. Livingston County, the land bank has been awarded $2 million by the land bank from a land bank initiative grant. This allows the Livingston County Land Bank to find distressed properties and derelict properties and properties like we have on Buell Ave, which the land bank is involved with, where there was toxic chemicals spilled. This kind of money pays for the buildings to be taken out or fixed up and then sold and put back on the tax rolls. So congratulations to them. They've done a lot of good in the community so far. And we did just have a building burn to the ground on Plank Street last week. So that may be a good candidate. Congratulations to Patrick Van Dermy, who was named the Livingston County Veteran of the Month. Patrick was in the Chaplain Corps. He served at Fort Jackson, Fort Stewart, and was the only Roman Catholic priest that the Army had assigned in Mosul, Iraq, back in 2009. He was medically discharged in 2014 after a hard helicopter landing, but appears to be up and around and doing okay. And he was honored at the Board of Supervisors meeting where he led the Pledge of Allegiance and was given a certificate for his service. On the sort of county side, the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council is going to be holding its annual government workshop on May 30th over at the Genesee Community College campus in Batavia, May 30th, 8:30 to 4 p.m. There's a lot of different workshops that you can take, and I won't run through the entire list, but there is one that is probably worth attending. The DEC has changed a whole bunch of its regulations regarding wetlands. So they are having a understanding the DEC's freshwater wetlands regulations for New York municipalities. Let me give you a brief example of why you might consider attending this. Suppose that you had a piece of land and you wanted to fence it off. Perhaps you were going to put out some beef cattle. If any of the land is a little bit damp, this may affect you, because in order to put up your fence, not only would you have to probably get a fencing permit from your code enforcement officer, you would also have to get a fencing permit from the DEC. So that they can see if you're going to be driving fence posts into a newly categorized wetland, which is not the same as 4 weeks ago. A lot of big changes there. So consider going to the workshop. Early bird registration is open right now, $60 until May 10th. GFLRPC.org should get you the information to be able to sign up for that. And that's all I got, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Over to John. John, what's moving in Mendon?
Well, a couple of things today. First of all, we've been notified by the company that has been operating our car charging station at the Mendon Public Library that they have a different business plan. So we're looking into having another company provide service. And I can't guarantee that this will be a smooth transition. It may be out of order for a period of time. So if you have an electric car, that is one of the few public places to charge a car. The other one that I'm aware of is at Jessica Chevrolet, which is out by the road, and they just completed that last summer. Obviously, many people have private charging stations. Also, I wanted to mention that we still are meeting with the state DOT regarding sidewalks. Those meetings have been ongoing. Obviously, that portion of the sidewalk that is from on Miles Square Road from Route 251 up to the linear trail is the immediate sidewalk that'll take place in this summer in 2025. We obviously would like to do more. However, we have to abide by the state. We have asked the state to consider putting a four-way stop at the corner of Route 251 and Miles Square Road, and that is under consideration from the state. We have also applied for Monroe County in Bloom program, which provides flowers to municipalities in Monroe County, and we've put that request in for that grant and received it the last few years. And obviously that's been great. We've been able to put flowers in the hamlet on various town properties, and always makes things look a little nicer once the weather gets nice. You may have noticed that there's some people out passing petitions at this time of year. Those petitions that are currently out are for elections in November for either the county or the town. There are also possibly people out passing petitions regarding the Honeoye Falls-Lima School Board. So if you have people knocking on your door seeking your signature on a petition, more than likely it's for one of those two things. One thing that we're looking at the town of Mendon is our municipal control of temporary signs. And you know, there's a lot of things to keep in mind when it comes to temporary signs, free speech being one of them. The fact that we've all seen some of the things on social media that people definitely exercise their free speech on, and we definitely are concerned about temporary signs. Now, temporary signs, according to the state law, all signs are all temporary signs are grouped together. Doesn't matter if it's a for sale sign or a sign regarding an election, all that type of thing. And we certainly don't want to infringe on anyone's free speech. However, we have had several complaints regarding signs, and we're looking at our local law. One of the things that can be considered is time, place, and manner when it comes to signs, but we have to take everything into consideration when it comes to that. And some of those things are that the signs have to be on public property. You can't just nail them to a telephone pole. You probably have seen those garage sale signs, things like that. Technically, those signs are already illegal, but we need to take that into consideration, as well as for rent and for sale signs from maybe a realtor or something like that. So we're working with our town attorney as well as the attorneys at the Association of Towns, because they have a good deal of information from other towns who have existing laws, and we're looking to make it as bulletproof as possible. And just a reminder that any signs that are on private property are the property of that landowner. So please do not go on private property to remove a sign that you may feel is inappropriate. You can call the code enforcement officer here at the town of Mendon for any signs that are in the town of Mendon outside the village of Honeoye Falls, and he can answer your questions. And we certainly would like public input on this. And once we develop, or finish developing, I should say, a new sign ordinance, there will be a public hearing because we want to hear from folks. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks, John. And now it's over to Steve and Henrietta. What's happening in Henrietta, Steve?
So first, now that the weather is getting nicer, you're going to start to see some door-to-door salespeople going around the town. In Henrietta, we issue what's we refer to as a peddler's license or a solicitor license. In response to some people who were improperly going around neighborhoods, we actually issue a badge. It does have the town logo on it, so you know it. To help show it came from the town, and included on there is a number so that if you have an issue, you can call and report it. Because if they create issues, they can have their license revoked. The one thing, we will be putting this in the newsletter because we had someone call thinking that the person was representing that they were from the town. That is not the case. It will also have all of their information on it. I will note that as of the last I checked, which was beginning of this week, there was only a single company out there, Renewals by Anderson. They're the only current company out there with a solicitor license. So they are required to identify themselves. They are required to show you their badge if requested. Like I said, they're supposed to wear it in a visible location. So if you see questionable individuals walking through the neighborhood and they don't have that badge, by all means, call the town. You can call our dispatch office at 359-7005. Since they're open a lot, most of the day and evening. But ultimately, it's taken care of by our building and fire prevention department, which also covers code enforcement. I will note that, as was noted by others, it is the start of the campaign season. So there are individuals going door to door getting signatures for people to be on the ballot. That is not a process that needs a license. So again, you could have people going around carrying a petition to be on the ballot. Just one clarification, because the folks that get this answer all the time. It does not mean you are voting for the individual. All you're saying is you think they should have the right to be on the ballot. You can only sign individuals who are in your own party if they're running as a party candidate. So in other words, if someone's running for the Democratic ticket, then they can only get signatures from Democratic voters. And they can only get signatures from voters who are in the area where they are running. So for instance, if I'm running for county legislature, I can only get signatures from within that county legislature district. So I think it's an outdated and a bit archaic process. I don't understand why, if somebody gets a selection from the nomination of their party, why they then also have to go out and get signatures. And I also don't understand why the signature count is so many. For us town supervisors who are elected every other year, it's especially problematic because, so this year I have to go out and get signatures to be on the ballot. Next year I will have to go out and get signatures to be on the committee. So every year I have to go out and get signatures. And if someone once asked me what's one of the worst parts about the job, that's it. I hate barging in people's homes. Love talking to people, hate barging in and asking them for stuff. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox for that because I've got a much bigger soapbox coming.
Oh, no.
We have some announced long and short-term solutions for the power problem that we've had in Henrietta. So for those unaware, most of, I'd say about 2/3 of Henrietta has zero additional capacity at the transformers in the substation. So basically what happened is apparently RG&E believed that construction was going to slow down during the pandemic. That not only did that not happen, it even actually sped up some. And so when you combine that with the supply chain issues to get new transformers, the available capacity went to zero on a couple of our major substations. It is not a power supply issue. There is plenty of power being generated, although with the trade war with Canada, that could change if Ontario decides to stop selling us their electrical power from essentially their size of the Niagara Mohawk power plants. But like I said, it's predominantly a issue at the substations that they've run out of available capacity on their transformers. So we've been talking about some solutions. The long-term solution is that RG&E would install a new transformer. Unfortunately, the way they price this is really strange. So if you are a company and let's say you're going to build a new power plant or a new factory and you need a megawatt of power, you don't pay anything for that. You obviously pay for it when you draw the power down, and you do have to pay for the connection between the distribution grid and your property, but you don't pay anything for that portion of the capacity of the transformer that you're using, unless it reaches zero. Then you have to pay for the whole transformer, which is about a $17.5 million price tag. As you can imagine, most companies don't have that kind of money, and it gets worse. You pay for that, but then you're not even guaranteed to get that power. So like that 17.5 million would get you about 35 megawatt transformer. You're not even entitled to all 35 megawatts. They then start going to whomever the next person is who comes in. So I'm trying to push to have that changed. Town supervisors and town board members understand this. When someone comes in and wants to build a new subdivision, they don't get the roads for free. They pay to build the roads. When they're all done, they typically dedicate them to the town, and now the town takes over the maintenance of that and does that out of their highway funds. That should be basically the same thing that happens with the electrical. When I'm going to put in a new, whether it's a giant subdivision, whether it's a factory, whatever, a brand new big commercial plaza, they should have to pay for that base power that's there. Once it's in, then sure, the maintenance of that equipment is part of your normal electrical rate case, but it's crazy to me that everybody else should have to pay higher electrical rates to put in the power for that specific use. So that's something I'd love to see changed. Unfortunately, that has to be changed in Albany with the Public Service Commission, but I will continue to fight that fight. In the meantime, we were able to get $4.7 million from the state Empire State Development Company Corporation. I don't know exact ESD, and that will pay for the down payment. Essentially, at that point, RG&E is willing to put it in, and then, like I said, they're going to be at the PSC for a rate case, and I told them I will be there in support of them if they go for a rate case. That new development that comes in and pulls that power down has to pay to do that. So pay their pro rata share. So that's the long term. That's been designed and ordered. Huge shout outs to Senator Jeremy Cooney, Assembly Member Harry Bronson, County Executive Adam Bello, our county legislators, Matt Hurlbut from GRE, Vinny Esposito from Empire State Development. It was a huge team effort. So it took a lot to get it done. But to give you an idea, we have over 1,000 housing units, either new homes or new apartments, including over 250 senior apartments that are on hold because they can't get power. As anyone who's tried to find a new home or find an available, affordable senior housing option, as anyone knows, they're in short demand. So we really need to get new ones put in. As an example, when the Marketplace senior apartments opened up, they sold out to 150% capacity on day one. So there is huge demand, for people to downsize and especially into affordable options. So the short or midterm solution is, let me take a step back. That long-term solution is about 4 years. The midterm solution is to do an interconnect between a transformer that has capacity and the substation on RIT property. That would allow them to shift some of that power from the area that is down to zero capacity. It would free up about from 6 to 10 megawatts, which would at least get us going because we also have multiple projects that could be generating jobs that are also on hold. We have probably about 800 to 900 potential jobs whose projects are on hold because of lack of power. So it would be nice to get, some of the housing and some of the job creating projects freed up so that they can get going in the nearer term. That's a 2-year out solution. We're going to get started on that. And then for some smaller projects, there's something called a Vista switch, which we've been exploring with RG&E. And basically what it would be is these folks would have to sign an agreement that that puts some limits on their capacity, in that they may see some potential interruptions. This obviously isn't for a home. This is more for a business. So if somebody really wants to get moving now, we have an additional capacity thanks to the large scale solar that has gone in. We've got 5 megawatts already online and another 5 megawatts coming online soon. The problem, of course, with those is they don't happen at night. Now, in typical fashion, at night, the rest of the consumption drops. So there is plenty of available. Basically, if there were a prolonged period of low solar generation, that's when they could potentially see some issues. And so as long as they're willing to accept that, we could get them hooked up much sooner. So we're exploring all 3 of those options: the short, mid, and long-term solutions. And finally, the dreaded assessment topic. So any town that's doing assessments right now, people are all up in arms. A lot of them blame their elected officials. That anger and angst, while fully justified, is aimed at the wrong targets. Town supervisors are elected on a 2-year cycle. Town assessors are elected or appointed on a 6-year cycle. And the reason for that is they try to pull them out of the political cycle. Reassessments are driven by the real property tax laws. It's illegal for elected officials to get involved in the process. In fact, there's probably going to be a significant case happening soon because a particular town board voted to overturn the reassessments, which they have no authority to do. It's creating chaos for their residents. They don't know whether they should or shouldn't fight their reassessments. The state has basically said, you can't do that. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm going to focus now on the effects on Henrietta, but I will say this is happening everywhere because the issues, in my opinion, the system is broken, especially since we've had this crazy real estate market. So let's look at Henrietta. Henrietta did not do market adjustments last year. If your house changed or if there were problems in your assessment from a prior year, they would have done those adjustments, but they did not do any market adjustments, any reassessment due to change in market value. We're doing a townwide this year. So what that means then is this is reflecting 2 years worth of change. The real property tax law basically states that you look at sales from 9 months earlier, basically prior to July 1st of the previous year. So if you look at that 2-year span, it's changes in home values from July 1st, 2022 through July 1st, 2024. If you know anything about this real estate market, that was the heart of the growth. Over that span, the median home value in Henrietta rose by 38%. So this is not opinion. This is looking at all the total sales, lining them up and taking the sale in the middle, the sale price in the middle. That's what the median home sale price means. It increased 38% over that time. Your assessments have gone up on average by 35%. So that's pretty much right in line with the growth. The reason you'll see a bit less of an average just has to do with average versus median. One of the problems, and this is why I think this, part of why I think this system is broken, is that in today's real estate market, the entry-level homes are rising faster than the upper-level homes. And so that would shift the, so because there's so many increases in the low-end homes, when you get to your median, that's why you're at a higher median than you are average, because since the higher-end homes aren't moving as fast, they bring the average down, but they don't bring the median down. So what's the adverse effects of that happening? Well, it's actually shifting the tax burden from the wealthy homes to the less wealthy homes. And I'm a perfect example of that. When the company I founded, Pictometry, sold, I used proceeds from that sale to build my dream house. It's a large house. It's been assessed for about $650,000. Some minor changes, but high-end homes, as I mentioned, weren't changing a whole lot. Over the past 2 years, that changed. So my high-end home went up over $200,000. I don't know whether I could get that for it because, again, there just aren't many of those big homes selling. In fact, they have to go out of Henrietta to find comparables. But that represents a 30% increase. Meanwhile, my old home that we still own it. We rent it out to family members. That's an entry-level home. It's been assessed at around $180,000. It's gone up 5 of the last 6 years. And the only reason it didn't go up 6 of the last 6 years is because, as I mentioned, we didn't do a reassessment last year. So that went up from $180,000 to $300,000. That is a 62% increase. Everybody asks, well, you raise assessments, you're going to get additional taxes. Actually, we're not. Increasing assessments do not bring towns or county or school district or anybody, doesn't bring them 1 penny more in taxes. Lowering your assessment does not bring 1 penny less. How much a taxing authority collects is determined at budget time when they create the tax levy. What then happens is once the assessments are done, because I'll point out when the school passes their budget, the assessment process isn't done. They have no way to know what the tax rate is going to be. But once both the levy is created and the assessment is done, they divide the tax rate they divide the tax levy by the total assessed value of all the properties, all the taxable properties in that just area, so typically in a town, and that gives them the tax rate. And then your portion you pay is the tax rate times your assessed value. So obviously, if your assessed value goes up and the tax rate stays the same, yes, you are paying new taxes. But again, if I don't increase my tax levy, as tax levy assessed values go up, the tax rate drops. If they change at the exact same percentage, then you'll pay no new taxes. Other than if they increase the levy, but that's assuming for this study, we're looking at the portion of taxes you owe, because that's one of the things that, again, people don't understand. Tax assessments don't determine how much revenue we get. They determine how that tax levy is split amongst, in Henrietta, the 14,000 parcels in town. So, as I mentioned, the average increase in Henrietta is 35%. If your assessment went up by less than 35%, your taxes will actually go down. Let me rephrase that. Your portion of the taxes will actually go down. If your change in assessed value grew by more than 35%, your portion will actually go up. And the way I always describe it is the tax levy sets the size of the pizza, right? Is it a small, medium, large, extra large? That determines the size of the pizza. The assessment determines the size of each slice. If I make one slice bigger, I don't get more pizza overall. That person has a larger slice of pizza, but the other slices have to get smaller in order to accommodate that larger one. The total size of the pizza stays the same. So it is with tax levies. If your assessment goes up, to the point where your slice of the tax levy goes up, then somebody else's must have gone down in aggregate. Going back to my two examples, my large home, which went up $200,000 plus, only grew by 30%. That means I'm going to pay a smaller portion of the tax bill than I did the year before. Conversely, my entry-level home went up by 62%. I'm going to pay a significantly larger piece. In fact, that will probably increase my tax burden by about $1,000 for that property. On my main house, it'll probably go down by about $200. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to pay 3x the amount of taxes on the large home than I am on the small home. But the difference is, in prior years, I paid 4x. So it's shifting that burden from these high-end homes to the low-end homes. That's broken. The system was not designed to deal with the kind of real estate market we have today. And this is creating all kinds of problems for the people in the low-end homes, which often are seniors who are on limited income, and they can't afford to absorb these, $1,000 hits. I get it. I wish we could do differently. I wish we could say, you know what, we're going to give a bigger discount for the low-end homes to account for this. Unfortunately, we can't. That is all governed by real property tax law. That change has to happen in Albany. Now, I'm pounding on the doors. I'm doing news stories. I'm trying to get that awareness out there. I'm going to try to go to Albany and see if we can get something changed. In the short term, one of the things maybe they can do is increase the size of the exemptions for senior limited income and things like that. In the long term, I wish the whole system would be thrown out and that they would go to a quantitative point-based system that, based on acreage of the property, square footage of living space, number of bedrooms, number of bath, things like that, things that are absolutely measurable. So gone would be all this argument over the value, because you can put 10 real estate professionals in front of a property, say, how much is that property? And you'll probably get 10 different answers. So if I can now basically get those folks, get rid of that whole system, go to a quantitative measure. Now, if there's an argument, I either count the number of bedrooms or I get out there with a tape measure. It's solved once. And the great thing then is, if you don't change your house, your assessment doesn't change. So gone forever would be reassessments. In addition to get rid of all the angst and anger and hatred that process creates, the other thing it would do is allow growing towns to not have to raise taxes. So the average increase in your school bill has been between 1.5% and 2% a year. The average growth in town has been 2 to 3%. So over the last 8 years, existing homeowners would never have had to pay 1 penny more in school tax. In fact, they'd be paying less. And all that growth in the school tax budget would be picked up by these new properties. Same thing with the town. For 5 years, we held our tax levy flat. Your town portion would all be going down. Today, those savings aren't going to everybody because of what's happening in the market. So it gets even more. In Henrietta, we spend about $500,000 a year to reassess properties. That would all go away because now it's just a formula. I don't need to reassess. Some people ask, well, then why do you reassess? Because it's better for the residents. If you're not at 100% level of assessment like we were last year, the state puts an equalization rate penalty on you. And what that does is it raises all your tax rates. And a perfect example of this is look at the county rate for Henrietta. It's $5.50-ish. You look at it in Webster where they haven't reassessed in 20, 30 years. It's over $9. Same county, different tax rates because they're not at 100% assessment. But that same penalty actually also applies to any exemption you get. And so now if in Henrietta, you would get I'm just going to make the number up, a $10,000 exemption for senior limited income. In Webster, it would only be about $5,400. So you would lose all that exemption. And where it gets really bad is with the STAR program. So STAR, they're not exemptions. It's where the state actually pays a portion of your school tax. And so what happens then, same thing. So let's say in the entire town, we get $10 million in STAR rebates. Well, Webster would only get, again, about 5.4 million. That other 4.6 million still has to be paid. The tax levy is the tax levy. So now instead of the state paying that 4.6 million, it's spread out amongst all the other homeowners. So all your property owners are paying more in school taxes than they otherwise would have. So that's why we've always tried to stay at 100% so that our residents get the maximum benefit from STAR. So it's a really ugly system. I feel horrible for the people who this is having an adverse effect. I think we really got to essentially march on Albany and get this changed because it's really a broken system. And sorry for taking so much time, but this is a hot topic in every single town that's doing reassessment because they're all seeing the same thing. And
right.
I'll get off that soapbox. As I said, I apologize. I knew it was going to be a much bigger soapbox, but it's an important issue because, like I said, it really affects a lot of people.
It is, and I think you did as a good job explaining it with the examples that you gave. This is a question that pervades all towns whenever there's a reassessment. Mike, you're the last man standing. Anything more to add, or are we all set? All set there. Thank you guys for coming. Thank everyone for watching. Remember, this program airs on Facebook and YouTube at 1 p.m. every Sunday. Like the page on Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Those platforms will notify you when the show begins. Otherwise, you can read the transcript in next week's paper. That's all for this week. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye for now.
Take care.
Imagine yourself communicating with a difference. Pan-Dimensional Solutions helps you do this. Whether live spectator events, taped broadcasts, or real-time audience-engaging programs, you can benefit immediately from the tools Pan-Dimensional Solutions will share with you. Do you want to make a difference? Contact us at pandimensional.com.